So anyway, not to switch gears, because I actually like enjoy talking about this a lot. But
we look at BNB.
we can look at BNB because the chart actually, it's an interesting place, right? And I looked at your chart and I deleted a few things off my chart because I wanted to redraw them so that you can see exactly where I pulled it from. I am recording this, by the way, so I'll probably cut that. What's that?
No, if he wasn't, I was going to.
Oh yeah, no, I got it. I'm recording. I just I'll cut that first part out though. We're talking about because I didn't record the whole conversation, so I don't think people care about that anyway. But so BNB, looking at this weekly level that is on your chart, right? So I'm trying to So when you say we're at resistance, what resistance were you looking at?
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant support. I probably mistyped.
Oh, okay. You're not wrong though. So here's your resistance.
Yeah.
This is what I deleted. So check this out.
Oh, okay.
So yes, you are at resistance and a pretty anytime you have a very clear swing high and a swing low, which your swing high in this case is the best swing high of all. It's the all-time high, right? Anytime you have your all-time high and you hit some kind of move like this and you have a very clear pivot to the downside as well, that is like the best fib pull that you're gonna get. And you expect it to, like, wherever your golden pocket is on a pull like this, you gotta be aware of it, right? Which, look, so we ran right into it, and this is your resistance right now.
Okay.
Clear this, and
20%.
probably got a pretty solid move to the upside, is my guess.
Okay. Do you always pull a fib in retrospect going forward?
What do you mean?
So, like in that case, you pulled it from like the May high down to the low.
Yeah.
Like, and if you were pulling a fib from like the July 20th low to like the August 28th high, then that would be for a rebalance. Like, is it always from an old date to a future to the newer date?
Yes. Correct.
Okay.
So it's always left to right, no matter what. No, if you're pulling bearish or bullish fib retracements, it's always left to right. Anybody who tells you otherwise, I would instantly unfollow them. Well, if anybody ever tells you to pull a fib from right to left, that's instant ban. If somebody said that in Discord, I'd ban them. Terrible. No, but so there's a couple different things that you can look at for. So what this is a bearish, which, by the way, look at this. I think I did this earlier, but this fib extension caught your high perfectly at 1.618, literally perfectly, like to the dollar. So that's how powerful. Like, if you know where to pull these from, it doesn't always work like this, but it'll give you a fair idea of where to look for future. Like, so $690.70. When you pull this back here in February 23rd, or after like this price action, none of this price action existed. Like, this is future. Like, we've never been here yet, right? But look at where we stopped. It's not always like this, but it'll give you a good idea. So, but anyway, so like this is a bearish fib retracement. This is a bearish move. So you're looking for a bearish retracement up to your key levels. And technically, like, this is kind of looking like you're not necessarily looking for a short. You're just looking for resistance, right? Like what you expect to be resistance and where you expect like price to have a reaction, which we're very clearly seeing a reaction at this level. Like, you had grind up, right? Look at this, and then boom, hit your 618, and now we're going sideways for 5-6 days. Like, this is very clearly your resistance level, but you're also above your weekly, right? And like, consolidating here under resistance is not bearish. So now you start to lose some important local supports, then you're looking for deeper, right? So like now you can turn this on. So like, you know, you still kind of have this cloud support here. That would start to look a little rough. I was at like lower time frame stuff, but still looking at where Tenkan Kijun is, like this is still fine, you know, like even if you retrace down here. But again, consolidating here is not a bad thing. In fact, like you put in a little bit of a base here and you see like this, if this does indeed like start breaking up, I think you probably get a pretty big move out of it.
Now, you were pulling the fixed range earlier. Like, how do you pull a fixed range in something like this where you're kind of out of a range, but
well,
you know,
it wasn't. I was just more using the tool to find where the value areas were from the all-time high to today, like to see on this drop. Obviously there was a bit of a range put in here, some sideways, you know, and then your pump, like I wanted to see where the volume levels were to see if anything lined up with anything else, and it didn't. It was not like I didn't see anything that was like, oh, I gotta, like, you know, you can, like, another pull that I like to do too is like from your low. So like, or like your impulse, like, I mean, you could do it from a few different places, but it's really like here, where was your low impulse, and see kind of where your levels match up on. Because like it, again, it just gives you an idea where the volume came in at, right? And like still your point of control was way down here.
yeah.
So, I mean, as it sits, so like I saw this chart, I looked at it, and we're obviously at, like, I've had these levels mapped out, but like you're at a pretty big resistance. If you clear this, very likely, like I'd say it's pretty good odds that you have a nice opportunity here. Now, as far as taking a position here, I hate the idea of buying. Like, this is still resistance though.
Yeah.
Even though you're consolidating under it, it's still resistance. So buying here is just like, it's a gamble, right? Like anything else. So like you could, I mean, obviously the market overall looks decent, and you know, any strength, like continued strength going into next week, it's going to follow. Like it's probably going to happen, right? Any weakness in, well, now I mean BNB is pretty much, it's a major, you know, definitely a major, but like any weakness in Bitcoin or ETH, and like this is going to have steep pullback, you know.
Probably.
So like if you're looking for an entry, right? Hold on one second. Got my coffee. If you're looking for an entry, you're not going to really get it on a daily time frame from here, in my opinion. You're not. Like, you'd have to go down on some lower time frames, kind of see what's going on. So I think did you mention a 4 hour? I feel like I saw it. Yeah, pivots were looking at most on the 4 hour. Well, so we'll look at it. I'm just curious.
I went through, you know, my 20 or 30 alts this morning, and I looked at Ichimoku, and it seems like,
so like
a lot of them are
really. Nah, go ahead.
It just seemed like a lot of them are getting their bearish TK cross, and I know that things will show up on a lower time frame before the higher time frames.
Yeah.
And usually, I discount things. BNB looks better than all the other coins, right? But anyways, I don't know if I'm at a. It seems like everything's just at resistance, about to fall, or giving indications of falling.
So
but maybe that prejudices.
Again, like this is a really nice range here. So on lower time frames, like if you're buying like the range lows, and like you know, if you're playing this range, this is actually like, this is pretty decent. But 4 hour, look at your 618. Look at the respect, right? So this level was here. Where? May 23rd. So you're able to pull this fib on May 23rd. I mean, technically, you'd want to wait, right? But like, this is where your fib would go. And months later, price comes up into a level you already knew was important, and magically is like, you see why you gotta know your levels.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not an accident. Like, this is, like, very technical. So it's nice to see this happening. So this weekly here, I was hesitant to put it on the chart because it's like, I put it on my chart because it was on your chart so that we would be looking at the same thing, right? Is this a valid weekly level, right? So like, if you just go back, I mean, honestly, like just looking at it from a day perspective, so you obviously was support, bounce, try to hold this support again. What gets tested more than, multiple times as support gets weaker, flush through. No back test, maybe on lower time frames, but this is a pretty clean break, obviously. And then now, like, you're looking for a potential reaction, like whatever your first reaction is when this level hits, right? So in my opinion, I think that this weekly level is kind of done because you had your opportunity. I don't know how it looked on lower time frames. So this is a pretty clear SR level for sure, even on a daily. So like, I mean, this could be weekly is higher time frame, better, but now that prices come back up into this weekly level, it's kind of done, in my opinion. Like, I wouldn't.
Oh.
You can keep it on your chart. It's not that it's wrong. It's just, this is one that I wouldn't care if it's there or not. So that's why I put it on here, just so you can, like, I could go through this example too. But like, on on like an initial, like, I'm just curious actually.
It did not in it.
What's that?
It didn't even on the lowers. It kind of
Nothing. Yeah. So that's just kind of like, what the hell is this green box? Oh, I'll explain this in a second. That's what I was pulling. Anyway, that's nice actually to see that. But yeah, it didn't, like, it blew right through it. So like, you had an impulse. I mean, yeah, it blew right through it. Like, so like, this is like, again, makes a case why I would probably delete it. It's kind of irrelevant at this point. But that's like a good lesson about looking at levels too, and like knowing when they can go. I mean, it could be respected in the future again, but like, then you just revisit it at that point, right? Like, it's hard. Like,
now that makes. I had drawn that level weeks ago before the SR stuff, and I just didn't realize it was an old chart.
well, a lot of times though, you will get a reaction. So like, that's like, it's not, like, that's why I it's one of those that, like, you can have on there, and you look like on low time frames, when you get that first retest after a long break of being away from that level that was very clearly, right? That was very clearly a support before. So if that was your first real retest of that level, you would think it should be pretty good resistance, and that didn't happen. So it's like, once you kind of once you have a level and you don't really get the reaction that you would expect to see, it's kind of old news. And then you see how it's just going all up and down through it. So it's whatever.
That makes sense.
So again, here, right, I think I drew this on a daily. Let me go back to a daily because I was going to make a video about this, because this is literally going to be the next SR video. This is a really good example of drawing kind of a SR zone or a liquidity zone, right? And this is a very clearly defined, like, you have your underside resistance and you have your support up top, but then you see like how the zone, like, there's wicks that come through it. But like, this is essentially where buyers are stepping in to defend this level. It's pretty clear on a 4-hour, really nice, and this wick here. So again, you have your consolidation, impulse up right to your 618, obviously a very critical level of resistance. Price pushes back off, and where does it back test? Well, here. So this was your high, right? Put in a bit of a range, impulse up, back test this level, what was your old resistance, right? Broke through it, back test it. Now it's support. Price pushes up. This is a pretty nice swing failure pattern, actually, of this high. Price comes back down to test your liquidity zone. And now you're just ranging. So like this is a pretty important zone. So now you see kind of how, so we start off on high time frame. See what's going on. Any major levels hit? Absolutely. We're at a pretty big resistance level. Now we're diving into lower time frames, looking for like, is there an entry? Right. So that's kind of what we're looking at. But like identifying this zone though, like this is a very important local support zone. So like, is this a massive, oh my God, if we lose this level, it's going to $100? No, not necessarily. But on like looking on a time frame like this, it's very clear that if you start basically coming back into this old range, right? So like, I'm just curious. This is like real low time frame stuff. So like, especially if you start to come back below like 450, I would say you start to come back below 450, then you got problems. Like more like you probably get a little bit of a deeper pullback. But locally again, like here is your immediate support. Here's your immediate resistance, right? So like right here where you're sitting, right here, right now, is there a good risk reward entry to take?
No, not really.
Why?
Just because your stop would have to be, well, it'd be quite a bit below, wouldn't it? I mean, it's almost a 1-to-1 at least.
So because you're in the middle of the range. You're literally sitting. So here's your range low, right? You can use the box essentially. So here's your range low. I know where your candle closes are. Here's your range high, right? Where you have all your wicks. And I would really look at the closure. So like, I mean, I don't want to draw another box, confuse you, but like,
are zones with boxes, are they is your risk reward usually worse when you're doing those because your stops have to be farther away?
Not necessarily, because it depends on your target, right?
So like in this situation, you would be buying at the top of the green box and selling at the bottom of the yellow box, is my guess, right?
Right. So like what you would do is like look at your range. Find your range levels. So you see how it even tightens it up a little bit more.
Wow.
So here is your local range levels, right? And this is 4-hour candle, so it looks like a mess. But I mean, maybe if we went down to like a 15-minute, see? Here's your value area high. Here's your point of control. Pretty nice, right? So like here, right? You lose value area low, you dip into your liquidity zone. So this is like your buy zone that you've kind of identified. You even have a pretty nice, take some of these lows out. But you reclaim value area low, nice push to the upside, right? Value area low, move to the value, like you get a move to the opposite end of the range value areas. Now, so you get a rejection from this area, back to your point of control. See where price is sitting? So if you lose your point of control, start to take these lows out, then you would look probably for another rotation down to the bottom of the range. But like, this is how you trade a range. Okay. So it's like, it's being able to identify, like, and these are very local levels, right? I mean, it's like, well, I guess what? August 22nd. Well, I guess for the last 6 days or so that we've been in here. But like, this is how you can start to kind of formulate. So again, price is sitting right at the point of control. This is a horrible place so like you're literally in the midpoint of the range. You're literally like 50%, like literally above and below, right? So like taking a trade from here is a coin flip. People are doing it right now as we speak. People are buying and selling this area. Why? right? Because you don't like, if you look at this from this perspective, if you're taking a trade right here, right now, it is literally a coin flip. Now the trend though, trend is very important to remember. Is the trend bullish or bearish right now? Well, I would say it's probably bullish considering if you zoom out, right? This is pretty damn bullish. So like my trades would maybe probably err to the upside. I would like, my bias would be more upside driven, you know? But again, when you start narrowing your time down, right? So we start high time frame. Now we're on lower time frame, kind of looking for an entry, like to see if there is an entry. There's no entry here for me because the risk reward is terrible. And I don't really like taking trades off of the point of control unless it's like, there are some instances where I will. And obviously like if things line up, there are other things that line up telling me to take a trade there, I will. But like in this particular instance, I'd rather wait for a move to the opposite side of the range. Like if I wanted to trade this, right? So like these aren't big moves really.
So would you be going in at the value area low then for a long, or would you wait until you hit the box?
So these are like 5%. I mean, so this is like really like this is a 10% range. It's actually a pretty big range. So like if you're trading this leverage, this is a freaking big range. Like you make a lot of money trading this for sure. That all comes down, like that piece of it, again, it comes to a risk reward. Like what, so like you can't, it's so like when you're talking about would I go to value area, like would I buy here or here, what's like, where's the invalidation, where's your target? So what would you be targeting, right? So like context wise, am I trading higher time frame or am I trading this time frame? So think about that, right? So like what does my trade setup look like? So if I am trading this range right here, right? So you have, you could essentially draw a horizontal channel, which basically starts around your 618 all the way down to here, okay? And I'll show you, because this is going to get really messy if I do this, but I'll show you, like you'll see this on my chart sometimes. So you can draw a channel that's going to look something. It's going to look something like this. Okay. So it's kind of messy because, again, I guess I could just delete this. I really want to delete that though, because it's like the whole point. But so like it's kind of like a horizontal channel, right? So you look, basically have your closures here on this time frame. You have the wick low here. So there's confluence telling you, hey, like this is an important level. Closures here. This is a deviation. So this could definitely be classed as a deviation. And then now you're back trading the same range, right? Yeah. So let's say that I wanted to take a trade and I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy. So is there any confluences that's here? Well, not really. I mean, like your golden pocket's a little bit higher up. It's a little bit higher up. So like you probably look for a little bit of reaction there. But again, this is like low time frame stuff, okay? But again, hypothetically, so let's say I'm going to buy value area low. So where's my stop? Well, probably below this low, honestly, which like I don't really like this is too clear of like a point where I know there's stops at this point. I know there's a lot of stops below this low. So is putting your stop loss here a good idea? Probably not. But for the sake of this, we'll just say fine. Like this is where we want to put it. So like let's say your stop loss is like, let's just say it's like a little bit deeper. So here's your entry, here's your invalidation, right? So where's your target? Well, I mean, let's say value area high. So like, is this a great area? Kind of not, it's like, I mean, could you ladder buys here? Sure. Like you don't need to pile all in here at value area low, but like one important thing that I want to say is you need to be looking at what's happening as price approaches this level too. be aware of what Bitcoin's doing. Be aware, like you have to understand like the bigger picture to see like, is this still a good trade? Or Bitcoin looks like crap, and it's like, like, and you're starting to get like pretty big moves down here, which I mean, this isn't like that big of a, it's not like really a big enough zone. But if you start getting like big red candles into here, and Bitcoin, like, there's other things going on, I probably wouldn't long here. I would probably wait, be a little more patient, But again, so value area low of the range, this is kind of why. So like, I'll get to it in a second, but your real invalidation is going to be somewhere down here, which I hate it, because this is like too clear. This is like too clear of, this is like too clear of a point, like where I know stop losses are definitely under here. So I would not do this, because this is very likely to get ran. So this is a safer one. Technically, it's like, it's the lower side of the wick. Could still get ran, but this one I think is likely. Like, I think this is very, if you lose point of control, start pushing down here, value area low, you gotta be aware of this area. Because I think like that, that could get ran, but again, could give you a nice opportunity. Could give you a nice trade, depending on the reaction there. But again, so like, let's say value area low, okay, that doesn't look very good. And really, when you're trading ranges, right? So especially if you're taking like more of like day trade type stuff, even taking, so like, I would look at this more like, I myself would kind of look at this more of like a scalper perspective. If I did take a trade off the value area low, because let's say that there was a bunch of confluences lining up, my first take profit would be the point of control. You already know it's an important level. Look at it. Resistance, push up, lost, back test, move up. Like, you see how much action is here? Like, this is an important level, and there's obviously the point of control of your range is always going to be a critical level. So like, if I'm scalping, right, and then let's say I took entry here, I would really be looking for point of control. I would take a little bit of profit there. Value area high is ultimately like where you're looking at to, like, this is like the target of a trade setup like this. But you have to get, like, say you're at value area low, you have to reclaim your point of control first before, so like it's like level by level. And then obviously if value area high gets reclaimed, then you can look, you can be, I would probably be a little bit more patient in the sense of, again, like if things look relatively good, you could get that, your target. So like, this is kind of why I like to take things, like I do like to take scalp trades quite often, because I've gotten a lot of really good positions out of doing this, so like I've got like that I've held for a while. So like, for example, you could get into a trade, you see how low time frame this is, but let's say you catch a long here and price moves up, then you're targeting here, like then these are, if you're already in a long position, you take some profit off where you should, like where it's probably a good idea, right? Lower your risk, good trade, you're in profits. Now, once, again, move your stop loss up if that's something you want to do, and go look for a different trade. But like, as far as this one goes, like this could happen, if Bitcoin's pushing 58K, BNB could be making new all-time highs. You don't know that, right? Like again, which is why I'm more comfortable taking longs than shorts here, just because of like, you look at the trend very clearly up. Obviously you came into a major resistance, but if this resistance level is reclaimed, then you got some upside. There's technically, there's a bit of a daily level here, but still, like, this is like huge upside. Now, so that's again value area low, but like you could, so that's an option. I don't like it at this right now point in time, because there's like, I don't see another like enough lining up at that level for me to want to take a trade right off of the level, right? Now obviously there's 1,000 different scenarios I could walk you through, which I don't really want to, it'd take me forever. But like, of a trade that I would get off of value area low, another option to look for a trade is simply to hope that price comes back down to, so like you have a couple different levels, right? You have the top of your green box, you have your channel low here, and you have the bottom, essentially like your previous, like where you have this wick that retested. It's pretty darn clear, as long as you don't swing failure pattern this is a critical low. You don't want to see that lost. See this loss, probably got issues. This channel, you could take a trade off of this channel, and if you see price lose the channel, so you see how it sure, like price came down, wicked, but closed above. Wick, big reaction. Okay. So if you see price spending time outside below your channel, that's probably bad. So like that would probably tell me, like if I got long based off of a channel retest, then I'd probably exit. Like if you see price not having like a quick wick, spending time, you see like a couple hourly closes outside, something like that, right? That tells you this isn't starting to look as good. But I mean, so like you could exit there or just wait, again, like if you have a hard stop loss and you're going to wait, be patient because maybe price reverses, then you do that. Like that's up to each individual person, right? So this is like, that's kind of your long opportunities is you could look for a scalp off your value area low. This is not a level that I think is like a home run by any means. Maybe like if I'm trading 5-minute chart scalps, I would look for this level. Because again, you kind of look at like your value area high, very like pretty well respected, right? This is a pretty clear support resistance level. Like especially here, broke above, nice back test, move up, boom, slam down, right? Came right up to your value area low, rejection, back to your point of control. So these value area levels are pretty well respected. So like maybe you could look for a scalp here, but again, there's nothing else that's really lining up. Kind of sitting at VWAP. It's like this isn't super helpful. Yeah, maybe if you want to like 5-minute, because this is not very helpful. But certainly like VWAP is one of those things where like, for like that session, are you bullish or bearish? It gives you kind of a little bit of insight at that point. If you're below VWAP, I wouldn't say that you're not. I guess I wouldn't necessarily say that you're bearish or bullish. It just means that price is kind of under what the value, like essentially like price is. I mean, in a way, it's kind of oversold. I don't want to say that because I'm going to save that for value area or for the VWAP. It's gonna take me a while. I'll go through that. I mean, as it sits right here, coming out of your POC, does it hold again? I don't know. What's Bitcoin doing? Is Bitcoin doing anything? Yeah, kind of nothing. So like again, your long trades, this is where I would look for a long scalp, essentially, like a long, potentially a long trade. Your short trade is a lot harder. You could, like, if price comes back up to your value area high, you could try to scalp a short there, because if value area high is reclaimed, then you're wrong, right, on that. So like that's pretty easy, but there isn't like a stop loss, like a hard stop loss that I could say would be a really good stop loss, and I wouldn't put it up like right above this high, because this is kind of one of those plays where you get a swing failure pattern, and then price reverses on you. So but like value area high, again, that's kind of where you're looking to short, or if you're long from below, that's probably a pretty good take profit. I would probably take some off there, lock in some profits. But this is generally like a pretty important resistance level. If this is reclaimed, then you look like, where's your next level? Well, interesting enough, channel high 618, pretty important level, and then you go from there. You take this high out, you're probably, I don't think you SFP this. I don't think that you like take this high and then come back down. I would be kind of surprised. I think if you start pushing back up to like 520, you're probably gonna make a run at that point, is my guess. But like you look at, like, when you're trying to decide, long or short, there's not like some hard steadfast rule that you can't do. You can't do one or the other. But I would just be very cautious of knowing what the previous trend is, right? If you've been ranging for a long time, like Bitcoin, when we were ranging for a few months, very clear You come up to the top of the range, you're looking for shorts. You come to the bottom of the range, you're looking for longs. Like, that's it. You don't short the bottom of the range. You don't buy the top of the top of the range. In an example like this, yeah, we're ranging on the hourly. Like, you have to understand that like hourly is still pretty low time. It's a pretty low time level. But the overall trend, like, here's your overall trend, right? It's pretty darn good. So just be real careful wanting to short this. Now, if you start breaking again, you start, like, for me, what could be a short as well is if you start losing this channel, right? Now you're still kind of in this zone. Like, you start losing this channel back to as a resistance, and you start coming back into this range, that could be a nice short, right? You think about it, you're losing this zone. We know this is pretty important from a local time frame perspective, right? You come back into this range and you start losing this range, even, like, that's a better short opportunity, in my opinion, because you're losing, like, clear supports that you want to see held. And where are you wrong on that? Well, again, coming back into this channel would be pretty, like, that wouldn't be very bearish, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So I know I'm talking through a lot of different stuff, but I'm trying to give an insight to, like, why you trade certain levels, like, and then, like, what levels are relevant and what aren't, and why.
Yeah.
Right? And, like, why you don't, just because. So, like, this has been, I hope people watch this video. I don't think they will, because, I mean, I look at my views and I don't think people are, like, watching these. Like, I feel like I share more in these than I do the module. Like, this is real examples, right? The module is just a module. Like, this is, like, talking about a chart right now and, like, analyzing it. Like, to me, that's way better than, look, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. That's my opinion.
The modules are super helpful to help you get the fundamentals. Like, I didn't pull my fib right. I mean, I was pulling it from the wrong spot, and so I didn't even see that we were up against the golden pocket. And so it's like, okay, well, then obviously not taking a long. But then kind of seeing, like, the fixed range of saying, okay, where does that get pulled from and where does it go? So that you can evaluate where your value area high and low are and your point of control in this mini range. And so, like, that's helpful right there, So I mean, if you can get your levels right and you can get some confluence, then it's like, oh yeah, okay, then that makes sense. We are against resistance, and I could kind of see that intuitively without the golden pocket.
Yeah,
we're up.
Well, you can see, like, where the consolidation is too, right? Like, it's clear we're up against something.
There's
like, prices stop for a reason,
Yeah, I couldn't see it, and so when you drew that, it's like, oh, okay, now that makes a lot of sense. And range trading,
it's also here too, like, the underside of this price action too. So, like, you're coming back up into, this price action. So it's kind of why if you break your 618, like, I think you could just come right all the way back up. Like, you see how this is kind of like how this range, high, put in, retracement, high, retracement. So there's a range here. Make your all-time high and it slams down. If you break your 618, you're going to come right back into this type. Like, it wouldn't surprise me. That's why I think, like, you could have another push up to the monthly, and we just keep kind of doing what you see here. Wouldn't surprise me. So that's why this is important level.
Not taking because we're working on relatively smaller time frames right now. So these are all scalp trades. None of these are swing trades, right?
Well, again, if you get an opportunity here and it looks good, that it could potentially turn into a swing trade, right? Okay. If you're like, catch a nice buy here and you get your move up to value area high, obviously, like, you look, these are your resistances if you're below them, but, like, again, if I caught a trade here, price moved up, I would probably take a little off point of control, just because I'll always do, because it's a really important level. And then, depending on where my entry was here, if I got a really good entry, I'd probably move my stop up at that point, right? Because, like, you wouldn't really want to see price come back down in here again. Like, again, too many tests, it'd be a little worrisome, right? So, like, let's say, again, you caught a nice entry here, price moved up to point of control, I'd probably take a little off, probably would move my stop loss up. and then you're targeting value area high, probably take a little bit more off, and then from there, it's like, you know, you again, like maybe you caught yourself a really nice long. Shorts, I would be way quicker to take profit. If I scalp a short and I say this is a nice short, so let's say you caught here, right? Swing failure pattern. You know, like you come back into your range, especially here. So like, let's say you caught a scalp somewhere along here. I would be way quicker to be taking profit and more profit. Like I would still let a part of the position run and trail the stop. But again, people who have shorted this haven't had a very good time. It like when you're looking around here, I wouldn't. This is just like, these are people who try to catch the tops, and again say I short. You know what I'm saying? Like you gotta understand that like you play this game long enough. Like the purpose of it is to make money, right? You have to understand like the overall trend is very bullish. So it's like trying to scalp, you know, trying to take a short off of here and like looking for, like thinking you're like trying to catch tops, you're gonna get absolutely destroyed. And I've seen it so many times. People try to catch tops the whole run up, and then eventually they're right. Eventually you catch the top, but you've lost 20 times, but your portfolio's wrecked. You know, like it just doesn't make any sense. It's so much easier, which I haven't talked about this a whole, like I talked about a little bit with Ichimoku, but like just trade the damn trend. You trade the damn trend, you're gonna make way more money. Just remember that. So it's like it doesn't mean that you can't take counter trend trades, but when you do, be cognizant of the overall trend and make sure that you lock in. Like if you catch an entry, it goes your way, like just make sure to like not lose money on that trade, you know, because the probability of you taking a counter trend trade and it being a winner, something like this, right? Like without, let's say like you took a counter trend trade and you didn't, like you're like, oh man, this, I feel really good about this entry. I caught this at the weekly. We lost the weekly. We're going to go back, you know, I'm good. Wrecked. You know, just remember that. Like you can take a counter trend trade, just like profits, the most important thing, probably be a lot more aggressive with my stop loss at that point. And then again, if you get stopped out, you hit your take profit, made some money, stop is at entry, it's a winning trade. You move on to the next one. So that was a good trade, right? But just there are people shorting this all throughout this run up, getting absolutely destroyed. Absolutely mega destroyed. Like that's just how people, like it happens, right? Then you get moves like this. People hold resistance. This is really, yeah, I'm gonna short here. Wrecked. Right? So yes, finally we're coming up into a major level. It's a critical level. Obviously it's a critical level. But remember this, right? Yeah, you're up against a critical level. Really nice short opportunity here. But what happened, right? Be quick to take profit. Move your stop loss. Like trade, like risk management, right? So
as I think of like, okay, well, what's my trading strategy? You know, there's the micro trading strategy, which is kind of what we talked about with the channel that we're currently in. But then if we came out a little bit, and you know, I could also probably set like an alert for right around like that 525, 530 area, and if it clears that level, then get in at another long point. Is that sound, or is that
to me would be a lower time frame entry again? Like you want to see, like if price is moving up, maybe you know, again, that's a little harder because you're trading momentum. You're trading, that would be a breakout at that point, right? So, but I feel like, you know, if we start breaking 530, 540 he's probably got some legs on that trade like that. So I don't like trading momentum. Like, or I mean, not that I don't like, I don't like trading breakouts, like fresh breakouts all the time, because like I'll tell you on Ethereum, you go back to the Ethereum chart when it made so when Bitcoin made a new all-time high, it never looked back. It never came down to 20K. Once it broke it, it was over, right? I think the lowest retest that maybe came was like 21 for like a brief, I don't remember, but like it never came back down. So people were trading Ethereum the same way. When ETH finally made a new all-time high, people went in massive, right? Because you're like, oh my God, like I can't, like we're going, ETH is going to 3K, like we're rich. And look at what happened to the ETH chart. All the breakout longs wrecked, time after time after time, which is pretty insane if you think about it. But like ETH makes a new all-time high, slam down, wrecked all the breakout traders, and then it's like makes another new all-time high, same thing, right? People are like, oh, this is it, let's go. Wrecked again, over and over again. It was incredible. Go back and look at the chart. So like that's why, like that's an example though of like kind of the mentality. Now this is not, I would say this is not the same as ETH. This is pretty clear. Like I do think if we break out like out of your golden pocket zone, I think you're probably, again, it was like technical reasons, probably gonna run. But that's just something that I always have in the back of my mind is like, just be careful trading the breakouts unless you get a kind of a clean setup, Like again,
wait for a retest at the top of the golden pocket.
I mean, not necessarily, because I don't know if that would necessarily hold up. Like that's not like this isn't like a major level that like, I would say from like, because this is it's more the zone. Now the 6-6 is important, but if it's broken, I wouldn't be looking for a retest to like take a long. That's not how I would view it, unless there's like, let's say your pivots there though, right? So let's say there's where are the pivots? We haven't even looked at that. But let's say that, again, so like if there's a pivot that's lined up and there's maybe there's something else lined up there, like a fib extension or something. I don't know. Like let's say that there's more reasons, then that's like, okay, like there's enough technical reasons here. I'll probably take a trade. But like you kind of have to see at that point, what does the price structure look like? Because that's going to help you with a potential invalidation too, right? So let's say you just get a huge green candle right here. Where's your stop loss going to be on this long? Shit, probably still back here in the range. You know what I mean? So it's like
kind of what you're saying is rather than try and trading a breakout, you try and wait for the retest, or not the retest, but you wait till it's hit its new high and come back in forming a range and then trade the range. Is that?
Yeah. Well, that's a good option. But then like you're gonna, again, like if it rips straight up to this monthly that's up here, then it's like, well, for me, I would rather get in the trade here. Like this is way more appealing to me, right?
Sure.
Longing what is support and looking at the trend, getting in here, taking some profit. What the hell? Those are my kids right above me. But taking some profit, and if you get that breakout, you're in a hell of a position. It's positioning yourself before, like it's trying to get into a position that is like the best possible risk reward that you can get on this, like in this local area. But looking at this, right, like could end up being a really nice long-term trade. So like that's how I like, versus buying here, I would rather be looking for a position here and then being more patient. So like if I hit my take profit, certainly, come up to value area high, take a little bit more off, stop losses is up, and hey, whatever the hell happens. Like if this thing breaks out to the upside, I'm good. Like I'm in a position. And if it if it does break out and you get some kind of retest and it looks like it's holding, you can always compound back what you sold up here. You understand? So like then your like your break even is still like in the range. That's like if you feel really strongly that this is gonna move higher, you can always add on to your position when there's strength. Like I feel like, so this is something that I'm gonna talk about in the future. It's really important, but there's not enough people who like think that, like, who don't add on to this, which is what Ichimoku does. Like, look at this, right? So you get your entry. Here's it. Like, this is perfect. You can see it. So like, you get your entry, Kijun retest, add-on, 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 compound, compound, compound. Like, you see that? Like, ride the trend. Like, you can add on strength too. It doesn't always have to be like, oh damn, I missed a trade. You know what I mean? Or like, oh, I sold too early. Well, this is telling you, like, this is literally giving you many points. Like, look at the Kijun. Look how perfect this is. You see that?
Awesome. It's one of the things like I've been looking at. I'm like, I'm really not in any trade.
Like, look at this.
Market. So like, that's helpful to know, because I'm just like, oh shoot, I missed it back, back in July or whatever. It's like,
Yeah. So that's this is actually good. Okay. If you get your breakout, this has been really well respected so far. Look at where your 4-hour Kijun is. Really nice buy, right?
Now the only thing is, it seems like in this case, the Tenkan and Kijun are looking pretty favorable. But like, it seems like all the other altcoins, or a lot of the other ones, are not looking as favorable. Is that correct? I mean, I'd have to go back and check.
I don't know. I have to look at more charts, but like, again, like, now this is kind of like the tough part, because it goes against what I say at the same time. So when you're taking an entry, as hard as it is, you have to trade the chart. Trade the chart, like the chart you're trading. Don't worry about what the other alts are doing.
Okay.
Because it is what it is. You know what I mean? Like, that's something that, so like, I talk about context. I talk about understanding like what the majors are doing, what's Bitcoin, what's ETH doing, right? If it's okay, if it's like consolidating, it's bullish, whatever it is. Like, I mean, it could be bearish. It depends what type of trade you're taking, right? But like, knowing what those are doing. At the end of the day, you gotta trade this chart. If you're trading BNB USD, then trade BNB USD. You know, like, you have to, like, because that's where you're gonna get your entry. That's where you're gonna get your target, your validation. You have to just trade this. So it doesn't matter what's happening on like other altcoins. So like, say a lot of other altcoins, maybe they're showing, to me, that's irrelevant to the BNB chart, if that makes sense. Like, you just trade the chart. Like, it doesn't, because BNB is doing what BNB is doing, So that, I know that like might kind of counter what I say sometimes, but it's more understanding like what the important shit's doing, right? Bitcoin, ETH. It's understanding like what those are doing, and again, the rest of the alts don't really matter to me. I don't really care, like, because they're like, some are gonna look really bad, some are gonna look really good. Look at Solana.
Yeah.
Let's look at Solana real fast. Just curious.
I may have to go in about 5 minutes if I cut off. Thank you.
Oh, that's fine. So look at Solana, right? So like, if you're trading BNB, and you kind of see what I'm saying, everything's like you have to just trade what you're trading and not worry so much about like what else is happening, except for, again, like, obviously what's happening with Bitcoin is really important, but like, that's going to influence that might influence whether I enter the trade. But once you're in the trade, you're in it. Your invalidation's still the same. Your targets are still the same. Like, you just let it play out. So for here, and I think we could wrap this up in a few minutes. So you have your zone, you have your 4-hour Kijun. Again, look at this. 2 like flawless lows. See that? Nice buys, big move up. Kind of had like, you see how like there was a bit of divergence forming here, then your Kijun pulled up, got really close again, nice trending move. Same kind of thing happening here. Doesn't mean that it's technically, it's kind of spending a lot of time below here, but your Kijun is forecasted to move up. So that's something to think about coming in your zone. So this could be another confluence telling you, hey, this could be a nice trade. Guess what's also over here? Cloud. So price comes down the bottom. Again, this is all hypothetical, but I'm just talking you through it. Price comes down to your channel low. maybe takes this low out. Where's your key June? Look at where your top of cloud is. My goodness, it happens to be right at the bottom of this zone. Imagine that. Didn't know that before I looked at this chart, by the way. I drew the zone, but look, cloud support. Wow, that's a pretty nice confluence, right? So it's like, that's how you look at it. You start, you know, like, and then you see what happens. But like, you start closing candles inside the cloud, not so good. Haven't done that the entire way. Change your behavior. Probably be out of my trade at that point, just out of precaution. So like, you see how like you can combine things as well to get a bit of insight, right? So we know the Kijun has been like a phenomenal. If you bought the Kijun every single time, you would have made a fortune on this run up, right? Like you would have done insanely well. So it's kind of like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's gonna break at some point, but it's something to be aware of. This 4-hour Kijun has been the perfect buy, flawless buy this entire run up. So wherever it's sitting is very relevant to what you're looking at, right? And again, in the next day or so, it's going to come right up into your support zone, which is kind of a buy zone, right? That we've identified. I like that. Look where your cloud is. I like that, you know? And again, the reason why is because the invalidation is pretty simple. You start losing your Kijun, like really losing it, right? You haven't done that. Look at this. Beautiful. You start losing it, below it starts chopping around. You get, certainly you start closing inside a cloud. Kijun's up here, hypothetically, right? Like you, then okay, change your behavior. Yeah, it looks, be careful. Like then you know, then you go from there. Maybe you get a bearish TK cross, that type of stuff, and you could take a trade to the downside. All hypothetical stuff, but that's like, I feel like this was actually a really, really, really good case study on one chart, you know? So like you can look at it from the high time frame, see what's going on, hit a massive resistance level, zoom in on lower time frame. Is there an opportunity? Well, we've identified there's no, for me, there's not an opportunity here because you're literally in the middle of this range. So we identified there was a range to begin with. Pull the levels. We're sitting in the middle of it. There's nothing here, right? So you're going to wait for a move to the like basically the other side of the range and then reevaluate. I've said it many times. Here's your trend. Trade with the trend. You're going to make a lot more money that way. And I mean, I don't need to spell it out, but I think you kind of see there's a nice potential opportunity forming here that's going to give you a relatively easy to manage trade, in my opinion. So that's something to be aware of. Make sense?
That's awesome.
Cool.
Hey, I missed real quick. Did you say you were gonna explain how to get the support range and then video coming up? That support box that you have there.
Yeah, that's an XSR video. So that is the like, this is the like, and you're probably gonna see this example in there because this is actually a really good example. I like, so there's a few others. But this one's actually, yeah, this one's a pretty nice example. So you probably see that.
You're waiting.
But, and then like the last thing I'm going to leave you guys with is these levels. So your value area levels. Obviously I haven't gone over that yet. And it's probably going to be next month where I go over how to get your range levels. But do you see, like, it doesn't mean much to pull these levels if you don't fully understand how to trade them and why they're relevant. You know what I mean? So like I see people using them in the charts, but it's like, I will say, just be really careful. You know, it's kind of like the same thing with the weekly, the monthly levels. Is like people pulling them incorrectly, which is it's natural, totally fine. But like you can lose a lot of money if your levels aren't right, you know? So that's something to like, just people are like super eager to be using a lot of the tools that people see me using. Just be really careful unless you're sure that you're pulling them right and you're pulling them from the right areas. Because again, like if you pull a meaningless range, it could really hurt you trading. You know, if you're taking trades based off of that, you're gonna wonder why you're losing money. It's that simple. Like, so just be really careful. Until we like do the modules where like I explain everything in like trade alts detail, right? My signature detail with 2 videos that take way too long, kind of like this video. But you know, just be really careful until then, or ask me
You,
in Discord.
when you're pulling, I mean, from what I gather, there's the all-time, which is from the beginning of charting to now, which is the macros. And then you're also doing one where it's pretty much from the current all-time high. And then when you're doing the range, it's usually on like the first retest, or not retest, but the first pullback after a rise or, the current.
So yeah, so like the one where I pull from all time or like the bottom of the run up like that, I don't do that all the time. That's only on certain, like there's only certain instances where that's like really relevant. So just to be clear, that's not like I don't do that on every single chart that I chart. That's just like it has to be very well defined in a way, which again I'll get to in the video. And then like the same thing with the ranges. Like when I go over the how to pull these levels, this is going to be in that range trading module for sure. And then I'm going to show you exactly like why I pull, like how do ranges form, why they form, and how do you identify, like I can identify a range being formed very quickly. Most people, it takes them, most people, you go to the Bitcoin chart and you look at, you're looking at July, oh, we're in a range. Yeah, no kidding. Like we've been in one since May. You know what I mean? But like, if you can identify ranges early, especially if you have historical ranges that are relevant, like I've talked about in Bitcoin a bunch of times, and like the levels respected, right? Like you can do very well. But most people get decimated in ranges. That's where most traders lose their money. Most people like to buy and just wait, right? Like buy and like, oh, Bitcoin's going to 65K. Like people, and that's totally fine. But the minute, like when we start going sideways, people just get absolutely destroyed. Here's a prime reason, which I know I got to wrap it up, but here's a perfect reason. Why are you buying here? Who's buying here? Somebody is, right? Somebody's taking longs here. Somebody's taking shorts here. Why? Look at, like we've identified this is a range. We identified that you're at the point of control. There's no really, it's a coin flip from this point. But people are trading here. That's the difference. Like the people who are trading right here, right now, they're not good traders. I will just say it. I don't want to be mean. But like, you understand? Like this is a terrible place to take a trade. These people are probably losing money, but somebody has to lose money in order for other people to make money though. It's not everybody can win. You know what I mean? Somebody's always on the, like you have to remember that. Somebody's always on the other side of your trade. So somebody's taking trades here. I'd rather be here personally. Again, maybe this ends up being a terrible trade. Maybe we just knife through it. I don't know. Like I'm kind of waiting to see where your Keynesian is, but like there's more value here looking here than there is sitting right here where we are. This is a terrible trade. Horrible trade. But somebody's doing it, So
I gotta head out, but thank you guys.
Yep.
Thanks, that was helpful.
All right, have a good one.
You guys take care.
See you, man.
So does anybody have anything else before I wrap this up? I have probably like 5 more minutes.
No, it's just fine.
Okay. So I am going to try to do that video tonight. I've started the thing is I've started like the slides and stuff, like formulating that takes me some time and like thinking about like what I'm going to, make sure I don't just rush a video and like miss something. You're probably going to see this example again, except you're going to see exactly how I pulled it. I'm going to explain why I pulled it there, like kind of like what the theory is behind these zones, right? And then like why they're important. And like you'll see these, like when you can identify these levels, right? And a lot of times they come in combination. Well, I guess I shouldn't get into it too much, but anyway, like it's how I do it. See, that's how these videos turn into like 2-hour videos. But they're really important though. I think they're very helpful to identifying, like again, like you see very clear zone, and like this has been a nice opportunity to take a trade, right? Especially here. So like you could have identified it. You should have identified the zone already, definitely by here already. But like this here was a nice opportunity. Same principle, right? So anyway, I'll let you guys go.
Only one other question.
Yeah.
Are you gonna do fibs anytime soon too, or
Fib?
that's the only thing?
Yeah, fib
That's the one I still look at. You pull it, and I'm like, I don't know. It looks like magic to me.
Yeah, that's. I'm trying to think like that could possibly come next month.
Sweet. All right.
So
All right,
it's gonna be soon. Like, and that because that like I have to like really. That's gonna be one of my. I want to say one of my better modules, but like definitely one of my more thought out because it's so important. It's like critical. I use fibs extensively in my trading, and there's so many types of them though. That's the thing. It's like it's going to be a really big module, but it's going to be really, really important. And like understanding why they work. Because people look at it, they're like, oh, that's stupid. Well, it's not stupid when you're making a ton of money. you know, like so here's your example. Oh, it's stupid. Well, that's weird because it has literally been your resistance. So I don't know what to tell you, you know. Oh, it doesn't work. Yeah, okay. Well, whatever. Again, people, you know, we're going to get into that too much, but again, it's like that's such an important module, but these other things are like really critical too. Like the 4 fibs, like support resistance is like the fundamental thing that every trader should understand before we get into like the other stuff. You know, like that's why SR is so important. I've spent this whole month talking about it because it's so important. If you don't understand it, there's no point in talking about anything else because you're going to lose money, you know? So anyway, but yeah, fibs, they're absolutely coming. It's just that's such a critical one. That's going to be a big module because there's a lot of tools and I use a lot of them. Like, and they're very helpful. Like there's fib time, there's all kinds of stuff that like, I haven't even, like, I like delete off my charts before I share them a lot of times because people are going to be like, what in the hell is that? You know, like, so I'm just saving the confusion. Like I have, you know, there's other things that I use that people be like, what, you know, like I just save for the videos. But they're incredibly useful. So anyway, I got to run. I will be back in a few hours. So, I mean, if people have questions, I'm happy to hop back on or like ask them in chat. But I got to take my daughter to her class. And then,
thanks again.
you know, anyway, you guys have a good afternoon.
Good night. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Okay, yeah. See you.